Hello and welcome to my channel. Try this as a series breaking down a certain game or playstyle of a game. Today we're going to be talking Commander and breaking down Shanna Purifying Blade. I break up my videos into chapters covering a variety of the deck's aspects. Go ahead and navigate to whatever you're specifically looking for. You can find them in the description or in the timeline. If you enjoy this content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps other viewers discover the content I produce and is a great way to show support. With that said, let's dive in. Shanna is a 3/3 human warrior with lifelink that costs green, white, blue. She has, at the beginning of your end step, you may pay X. If you do, draw X cards. X can't be greater than the amount of life you gain this turn. It's been a long time since I built a life gain themed deck, and Shanna is an amazing commander for one. Her draw potential is insane and mostly balanced by it being at end step. This makes you fight with the maximum hand size, which we can get around with several different cards. It's cool that she has lifelink so she can enable her own ability. Flash is very powerful in this deck to enable all the cards we'll be drawing. I think she's also a great candidate for a Labman or Thassa's Oracle win condition. I didn't build Flash or that win condition in my example list, but they're both worth mentioning. The biggest downside I encountered while playing this deck is really the morale at the table. Maybe it was just the mentality of the pod I was playing with at the time, but I often found the game sort of dry to play. Between my life being so high and drawing so many cards, my opponents were just ready to call it a game and shuffle up their decks. Winning by concession from value and not even the board state feels honestly pretty bad. I discussed with your pod what they think of this commander before really trying it out. With that being said, she has amazing value potential, and if your pod's cool with it, she's overall very satisfying to play. Our goal is to draw a ton of cards and gain a ton of life to sustain through any damage we're dealt until we draw into one of our various win conditions or beat down our opponents. Cards like Archangel of Thune, Resplendent Angel, and Heliod's Suncrown are some heavy hitters for life gain synergy. These are some powerful effects that can easily enable a beatdown style win. The great part about gaining so much life is that we can trade with our opponents very effectively. The Archangel is probably the most dangerous card in our deck for this strategy. There are so many ways to gain individual instances of life, which quickly amasses counters on our creatures. Thaladar Sovereign and Aetherflux Reservoir are some great alternate win conditions for this deck. We should easily enable either with all the life gain we have. To slow down the deck, I didn't include any tutors for these cards. I feel like the deck would be way too fast between all the card draw I already have if tutors was also included. I'm running Approach of the Second Sun as another alternate win condition. Since this deck can draw so many cards, I felt like it made sense to run this. Since we gain 7 life from the first cast, Shanna's ability will actually let us draw it right back if we have enough mana. I normally don't talk about win conditions outside the example list until the end of the video, but I felt like there are some obvious ones that fit the theme, so I'll cover them real quick. Combos like Heliod and Walking Ballista fit our life gain theme very well. This combo feels a bit too easy to pull off, so I cut the Ballista for this reason. However, if you're playing a little bit higher power, then I'd recommend it. I'm running one infinite combo with Drogskull Reaver and Horizon Chimera. Basically, either gaining life or drawing a card starts a feedback loop that repeats until you've drawn out your whole deck. In my test games, I avoided this combo because I had no way to win the game using it. I didn't want to play into the Labman win for this deck, but you can win the game with either him or Jace Wielder of Mysteries out. Though I'm not really a fan of winning a game this way, I have nothing against opponents doing it, it's just kind of boring for me personally. I wanted to bring it up briefly though, because I felt like either card really fit the theme of the deck. Starting off is the auto-includes and Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Thematic Compass. I've always found Thematic Compass to be a reliable card at any point in the game. It can help ensure land drops in early to mid game and then flip into a strictly better Maze of It to protect us from Voltron commanders and other problem creatures. Some heavy hitters are the Great Henge and Smothering Tide. These cards are commander staples that are welcome in any list that can run them. They certainly aren't budget friendly, and when having access to green, you don't need either for ramp. Cultivate and Wayfarer's Bauble are some great ways to get basics to field. They're just solid cards that are cheap to cast and budget friendly. Free Visits and Nature's Lore do the same thing, and they can get non-basic forests to field for us. How useful they are really depends if you have fetchable non-basics. Like them is Sky Shroud Claim and Template Discovery. If you've seen my videos before, then you'll see these two cards a lot. They offer flexible color fixing, and Template Discovery lets us get utility lands. It's also a great card to start some interaction with your opponents. Birds of Paradise and Steve are 2 more green staples. Ornithopter of Paradise is a good budget version of the birds if you don't want to spend money on that mana dork. Last up is Accomplished Alchemist, which is a great mana dork specifically for life gain decks. With our commander having lifelink, we should always be able to make at least 3 mana in the second main phase with this card. Obviously, Shanna is our primary draw engine in this deck. It's always nice when you have great card draw or ramp in the command zone, and she's an incredibly effective draw engine. She has a twin in the form of an artifact called Well of Lost Dreams. This card is actually an upgrade because we don't have to wait until end step to draw the cards, otherwise it works just like our commander. Some classics here are Rhystic Study, Esper Sentinel, and Guardian Project. Honestly, you could probably cut any or all of these cards and still have plenty of card draw overall. These cards are just staples that I like to run. Personally, I have no issues running similar cards in most decks. I think they help my decks to be consistent in power level and balance with other players in my pod. Tatiova, Drogskull Reaver, and Alhemerit's Archive are some great card draw effects in this list. Again, be careful with the Reaver as it combos with a couple different cards in this deck. You can easily kill yourself this way, so maybe it's worth cutting unless you run Labman. The Archive isn't technically a draw effect, but it's kind of like steroids for all the life gain and draw potential this deck has. Honestly, it's kind of a win more card, but I think its synergy is too good to pass up. Cards like Ajani's Primate, Voice of the Blessed, and Lathiel are amazing cards that synergize with all the life gain as well as also enable our beatdown strategy. Lathiel is very flexible to grow whatever creatures we want. There are about a million different ways to gain life in Magic. Essence Warden, Soul Warden, and Ariok Champion all gave us life when any creature enters the battlefield. This adds up very quickly even if you aren't playing against go-wide decks. Like them is Soul's Attendant, Suture Priest, and Sun-Scorched Regent to gain us even more life. The Regent also grows as a large threat in the air. Suture Priest can also burn down our opponents. Valkyrie Harbinger, Ronk's Faithbender, and Shabraz have a variety of effects that synergize with the deck. The Harbinger makes a ton of tokens for us, Rox doubles our life gain, Shabraz is another large threat in the air. Thought Vessel and Reliquary Tower are pretty important with our commander's ability. We need some way to extend our hand size to fully utilize Shanna's draw potential. These are two classics that I included, but there are a few other ways in these colors to extend our hand size. Blossoming Bogbeast wraps up our high synergy cards. It can gain us some life and anthem our creatures a ton if we manage to gain some life in the first main phase. This anthem could be a finishing effect for us since it also provides trample. The cutting room floor is where I talk about some cards around over $10 at the time of recording that I cut from my list for various reasons but are worth mentioning to run. Though these cards didn't find a home in my list, they might find a home in yours. First up is some Tutors and a Domri's Call, Enlightened and Idyllic Tutors. Like I mentioned before, Tutors really speed up your deck, and with all the card draw potential you have in this list, I think it might be too powerful. I can only speak for my pod, so maybe it won't be a problem for you and other players at your table. With Alkanori, we'll give flash to all of our spells to help utilize all the cards we get at end step. Like the Tutors, I cut it for power reasons. I normally don't include flash effects because they're pretty easy to abuse, however, I think they're worth considering for Shanna. Authority of the Consuls is another great way to gain life and slow down your opponents. I already have a ton of ways to gain life when creatures enter the battlefield, and honestly, this card just sort of pisses people off. There's really no better way to put a target on your back than playing Authority of the Consuls. That being said, it's cheap to cast and very effective against most decks. Decanter of Endless Water, Venser's Journal, and Library of Lang are all good ways to get no maximum hand size with various other effects. The journal actually snowballs with our commander's ability very well and is a great budget replacement for just about anything in this deck. Crested Sunmare is a great way to produce creatures in this list. With so many random ways to gain life, it's likely we'll make a horse on most end steps. Angel of Destiny is another alternate win condition that should be easy to pull off. Not only do we gain a bunch more life for our draws, but we don't even need to connect with our opponents to remove them from the game. Leyline of Anticipation is a budget way to give our things flash. Like Vidalcan Orrery, I think it would really up the power of your deck, so it might not be worth running for this reason. I didn't cover every card in this deck or every suggestion I have for Shanna, so if you'd like to see the rest, check out the link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel. Comment below on cards you think synergize well with this commander, and if you have any suggestions for commanders to build in the future. Thank you so much for watching, good luck, and have fun.